A lot of times I'll meet people and they think it was a company passed on from like, my dad or something like that. I don't think many people know that I started from scratch in my garage, 6 years ago. My father was the one who really introduced me, to baseball at a very young age. He was probably my biggest role model growing up. I know a lot of people probably have major leaguers as their role model, but growing up, being an athlete, he coached me in 2 out of the 3 sports I played growing up.
He just excelled at the sport. He loved it. He worked hard. He did everything you want him to do, and then he grew. He was amazingly good at a young age.
'96 draft day. I'm in Millington, Tennessee for the USA Olympic trials.
At that point in time, we were pretty sure he was going to get drafted because he had such a great college career.
So on draft day, everybody's waiting their phone calls, and I hear guys coming out and say, "Oh man, I got drafted in the first round."
He actually called me and asked if I heard anything because they were getting on a bus for a game. I said, "No, I haven't." And he was with all other guys that were getting drafted in the first round.
And I'm waiting in my room, and I hear a guy after guy, kind of coming out, and then I hear some guys coming out saying I was drafted in the second round. I start hearing guys talking about being drafted in the third round. So now I'm starting to get kind of frustrated, and there's a knock on my door. So I answer the door, and it's one of our assistant coaches with the Olympic team. He said, "Tucci, you got to get on the bus. We got to go back to the stadium." So we get back to the stadium. I get off the bus, and they kind of direct us. A big kind of media room, and at the end of the hall was, a bunch of guys all at phones. And so they directed me down to one of the guys, and he handed me the phone, said someone's on the phone for you. And it was actually a local writer from the Norwalk Hour. And he said, "Pete, how you doing?" And he was a guy who covered me throughout my high school career, and said, "I just want to know how it feels to be drafted in the first round." And I said, "I don't know." I said, "I think you got misinformed." I said, "I didn't get drafted in the first round." He's like, "Yeah, you did. I'm looking at it right now. You got drafted in the first round." I said, "This is the first I heard about it. I had no idea."
A sports writer from Toronto called up the house looking for Pete, and I answered the phone, and I told him, he wasn't around, and he asked me if I was his dad. I said yes, and he said, "Well, congratulations. He was the 31st in the draft." I said, "31st round?" He said, no, 31st overall.
Playing baseball is all I ever really wanted to do, so it's not an easy life playing minor league ball. It's definitely, kind of a culture shock. It's definitely a lifestyle change, but I loved it. Bus rides were long, for sure, but there's nothing I would have changed about it.
When he signed, I went with him, and everywhere from St. Catharines, Canada, to Florida, Maryland, you name it. I was there, and at the time, I didn't realize how fun it was because we were away. We'd miss births, weddings, deaths. We'd miss a lot of things. Now, looking back at it, it was the best experience.
I really, those 2.5 years I spent with the Blue Jays after being drafted, I really put myself in a position to be in the big leagues by 1999, and just had, an unfortunate injury in my hand that kind of snapped some tendons and stuff going up to my ring and pinky finger, and never really recovered from the surgery after that. Never really regained the strength back in my hand. He spent about 6 hours trying to repair the ligaments and attach it to whatever he could, and basically said, he's like, "Listen, it's 50-50 how you come back. I really don't know. There's no, you could come back and be fine. You could come back and never be the same again." But decided at that point, it just wasn't in the cards for me, and kind of wanted to get on with the rest of my life and not prolong the inevitable. And so I decided to step away from baseball. So, here I am now. I'm out of baseball. I was married. We had our first kid already. And so here I am, 26 years old, and I don't have a college degree and coming off a pro baseball career. My brother-in-law at the time was looking to start his own business. And I needed a way to make money relatively quickly, so we decided to start our own business. He was in the heating and air conditioning business.
And they were doing very well. And then suddenly my son-in-law had a heart attack and passed away at the age of 38. And Pete was going to try to keep it going. And I thought he should, because he was making an honest, nice living.
Kind of threw my world into a spin again. I kind of felt like I did the day I was released, by the Padres. Kind of felt like, all right, here I am, don't have a college degree. What am I going to do now the rest of my life? And I felt like I was thrown back into that position because he was the brains behind our operation. He was the one with the background in the heating industry and the air conditioning industries. I wasn't confident enough in myself that I knew enough at that point to be able to run the company the way it needed to be in order to be successful. And my wife had this idea that I needed to get back into baseball.
Just like joking, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get him a lathe so he can make bats. And she's like, you really should do that. And when he got home, I told him I was gonna do that, and he thought I was nuts.
She researched it for a few weeks and actually ended up surprising me with the purchase of our first lathe and about 60 pieces of wood that just arrived to the house one day. And she said, try it. I think you'd be good at it, and if you like it, great. If not, at least you can say we tried, So she had this idea of going to the bat business. She said, you're so picky when you played. I really think it'd be something that you'd be good at. And my first response to her was, I don't know a thing about making a bat. So this is basically our wood room. It looks just like that when it comes in. And then what we do is we weigh each piece, we grade it. Each grade has a different value to it, which affects the price point of each bat. And then we need to know, based on what model we're making for a customer and what size he wants, what weight he wants, that determines what weight we need to start with. So after the wood is selected and we know what piece of wood we're going to use to make the bat, it then gets put on our CNC lathe, where it'll get laid down into the model option that the customer requests. So after the bat is then lathed on the CNC machine, it then gets taken off of that machine, put onto a manual lathe where it is finished, all hand sanded and finished by hand. The ink dot represents the slope of the grain of the wood of each bat. The ends are then chopped off, the ends are sanded, and then the bat is off to paint. So once the bats are lathed, they come in here to the paint room. Some of our bats are sprayed, some of them are dipped. These bats are getting dipped. This is Wally, he's been with us for a few years now. And he'll dip it, make sure no drips are on there. It has a nice, even finish to it. So once the paint is dried from the dipping process, we'll then apply the decals that, puts our logo on the bat. Everybody really seemed to love the simplicity of the logo, and it just kind of stuck, and we've kind of kept it ever since. And once the logos are applied, it'll be then dipped into its clear coat. And finally, once they're dry to a point, they come in this room, which is heated and speeds up the drying process to finish the curing of the paint. The cupping process is what it does. It takes a little bit of wood at the end of the bat and allows us to use a little bit denser wood when making a bat. So if we're making a bat at a certain weight for a customer, say he wants 32 ounces or 31 ounces, it allows us to go over that weight a little bit by using a heavier wood than we normally would use, and then cup the difference out. And it does a couple of things. One, it changes the balance point of the bat to make it a little bit less top heavy and makes the bat feel lighter in our hands, and also makes a more durable bat from using denser wood. So you have a denser bat, which is more durable, get better performance, and you will swing it faster because it will feel lighter because it's changing the balance point. And in order for the bat business, in my eyes, to really be taken seriously and really get off the ground, we had to be Major League approved. We had to get into Major League Baseball, and from a personal standpoint, I had to do it right away because any contacts I had in Major League Baseball were coming towards the end of their career.
I was excited because I thought it would give him an outlet. I didn't think it would ever turn into anything, except, maybe this will just give him a way back in. I thought it would I thought he'd make bats for himself and then start playing in a rec league and kind of fulfill a little bit of that need for the competition that way. I didn't ever think it would become this. I just had faith in him, and I just saw him being happy. So wherever that path, led was fine with me.
After the interview with the Tucci family, Pete discussed how important it was to expand the brand to all facets of baseball.
I mean, conventions like this are great. Obviously, they bring in elite coaches, college coaches, what they look for, coaches who, a lot of them playing against each other over the years. It's a great way to kind of come, bond, to kind of be here, and being able to meet with coaches and people who actually make a lot of the purchasing decisions for their teams. So it brings the whole baseball community together.
Being a lifelong baseball fan, a baseball coach, to work in Major League Baseball almost, when you see your product out on the television screen or in a big game. I've had bats swung in the playoffs. I've had bats swung in the World Series that I made, and I actually have two bats that are in the Hall of Fame that I made. One was Pablo's bat from the 2014 World Series Game 7, as well as Yohan Moncada's bat from this year's International Prospects game with the All-Star out in San Diego. So I have two bats that I've made that are now forever enshrined in the Cooperstown memorabilia. So when you put something like that, it just makes the hard work all worthwhile.
My grand goal of this whole thing is to really transcend the brand outside of just baseball.
I just think that sky's the limit from here. I think if we get more players, which we're trying to get to invest, just the opportunities are going to be endless from there.
I'm a very conservative type guy. So I would be very happy if he makes a good, honest living and one day gets to sell it and retires at a relatively normal age. But I think he sees it a lot larger than I do.
I think people just kind of see the brand that's in Major League Baseball, and they kind of, don't really see the story behind it. Stories like this or, other avenues we've taken, try to get that message out. Definitely helps when people kind of understand the passion that's kind of come to make this what it is today.